Alright, so let's continue with this HTML events. Now what happens is we saw like how HTML works, how we created some fields and divs and tags, and we have added some forms also. Okay, we saw the interactivity of the button and how to pass the data and all using the, and how to browse the DOM also using the get element by ID and all that. Now let's look at events. Now HTML will generate events like window events which occur when the main body loads. Like when the HTML loads, like the window is loaded, couple of events get fired. Okay, then within that window, we remember we created a form, so the form events will also fire and it will interact with the HTML form controls. Mouse events also occur due to user interacting with pointing device on the mouse on click mouse over. Like a person takes the mouse and does some interaction on the web page. Each of that can be captured. Same way keyboard events like on key up, on key down. So these are some basic HTML events. So let's see how this works. So what are the HTML events now? When the user clicks a mouse, when the web page is loaded, when an image has been loaded, when the mouse moves over an element, when an input field is changed, when an HTML is submitted, when a user strokes a key. Now look at the events over here. First is on click, straightforward, like what is this? So this changes that this refers to this particular tag, this dot inner HTML. And now look at this. This one is, we have already seen this, that this desperately calls this basically calls a method. Okay, then another input type text where on change we have like if you make a change to it, you're calling an uppercase method. Now this is again a JavaScript method that you have to write. Now similarly on mouse hover, like on mouse out. So these are the things you can have, like if you want to change this. So this event will happen when the mouse is over it, and this event will happen when the mouse is out of it. So a lot of events that basically the entire forms are built based on this. Like you can use it for validation, for animations, for interactions, for validation messages basically. Or if you want to move something and make your page dynamic, you can use these things. Okay, so again detailed example of the same thing. Just spend a minute on this slide. Look at some interactivity. Now what we'll do is we'll create a div here and see see the mouse over event, how it works. We'll say div, and within this div we'll have a text called as move mouse here to see text change. Okay, so we just add one div over here, and let's take a quick look at that. So move mouse here to see text change. Okay, so this is the text here. So now if I move, nothing is happening here. So let us use this events we are talking about to see what happens. Okay, so first thing is you have to use div. Okay, so all the tags won't work. You have to use div and certain tags which will work. So on mouse over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a method called as change it. Okay, so and this method I'll have to define over here. I'll continue here. I'll write another method here. So you can write multiple methods here. Okay. And here, what I'll do is I'll take the same thing over here, and I'm going to search now for div because I have only one div element. Usually, you can also see. Usually, what happens in best practice is you use element ID. Okay, you assign IDs to it so that you can specifically go there and pick it up. Alright, so that way your DOM is very cleanly structured, and because there may be thousands of div in a form, but this is just for a learning example. So now we'll say x text change due to mouse over. So we're going to add some text over here, and now we're going to say the text has changed due to mouse over. So now let's see what happens here. Let's see name. Saved. So let's see. Oh, yeah, the problem here is I have not changed the inner HTML, okay, because it is finding that, but we have to change that text. So now if you go over here, refresh it. So now the text changed due to mouse over. Earlier it says mouse. See how fast it is. So this is how interactive it is. And what we'll do is we will do one more thing to get the value back, mouse out. We'll change the message back to move mouse change. So that will be awesome. Okay. Same thing. I'm going to, usually you can use this by, I repeat, you can use get element by ID also. So you can use that also to change it. Okay. So now this change ID to, where you will call it on mouse out. the same div, we will say on mouse out. So we have two methods here. One is on mouse over and on mouse out. So let's save it here. So now this changes. And now if you move out, you see the original text is back. So this is how powerfully interactive things are. Okay. And we can also make elements disappear. Now we will try to do that on the image part of it. Okay. Do is we are seeing the image over here, right? Which is the back. Say document.body.style background image is equal. I'll give a different image, and this image will be. I'll give it back to the Salesforce image because I don't want to change. I don't have so many images here with me, so I'm going to give this JPG over here. Okay. So now we need to give the double slash. Otherwise, it will not recognize it. We have to give the double slash here. Alright, so save this. So now if you see here on mouse out, the image has changed. Basically the problem is it is not able to find that image. So file not found. Otherwise that will give the correct image. So we have to give it full name. So that's right now what we will do is we'll look at this example here. So right now I don't have any other image over here right now. So let's see why it's not showing that image. Download JF. This path has to be correct, so otherwise it will not find it. No? It's still not taking the path. Okay, so we will look at this later. I'll come to this part later. So basically we can change this image. Somehow it is not taking this path over here. No, there's a problem with this file path and we are dynamically. I'll correct it and revisit this later, not a problem. So basically this is how you change the value of it. Okay, using events. So you have mouse over, then you have various other events to work with. You also have on key press. Suppose you want to build an autocomplete, you can use those events. Now a couple of other things that you can understand here is you can add your own event listener at runtime. Okay, so now these are so far what we have seen is custom. We have seen out of the box event listeners, on click, on mouse over, on mouse up and all that, right? So those are out of the box. You can add your own. You can add your own custom URLs to it. Okay, so how do we do that? Now let's take a look here. So you say you add a function and HTML DOM can be navigated. Now if you see here on the first line, if you see how does you add a button, you get a button over here, you create a button, then you add an event listener. Okay, that on event listener, what should it do? So this way what happens is this is your own, it is not an on click one, this is your own event. Alright, so this will create your own event and you can add multiple functions inside this. Now a couple of things, HTML DOMs also can be navigated, we already seen that. Also HTML DOMs can be nodes can be added or created using JavaScript. So we will see that example now. So like we have already seen one element, right, P, and also let's try to do one thing. We'll try to create a text node over here and add it to that. So let us see how to add this, and let's add it and the click of the button. Okay, so this one I'm going to add it in the show values. So let's see, let's copy paste this. So first I'm going to create a, what I do here is, you can use either var or let. Have you already seen that in JavaScript? What is the difference here? So I'm going to create an element called z. Okay, and this element I'm dynamically creating. See, this nodes that you see, what I'm talking about is these nodes that you see, right? So we are going to add a dynamic node first using JavaScript. So let's see how to do that. And let's save it all. So this gets clicked on the show value, right? So let's go over here and show DOM values. And it has added a text node here. Yeah, so let's add a node to it. So what we'll do is we'll first get this document.getElement by ID. Okay, so we can do this and we'll say, let's store it to one variable. Let's say element is the para1. Which is the para1? The one which we already have. Yeah. If you see here, this is para1, today's topic, right? This is para1. So we will append a child node to that. So at runtime, okay. So first we get the element ID and then say element dot, and we'll create a node. I'll just say create text node, and I'll say this is new added. This is added new. Okay. So what we are doing is we are adding stuff dynamically, and now we need to append this. So how do we do that? We say le dot sorry. So we can append child, or we can, okay. So I'll append it as a child element to that. So let's see what happens. Now if I say, now see, this is getting added to it. Alright. So now let's see this again. So now when I click on this, see this today's topic, one more P has got added to it. So now if I go inside, now if you see here, the P has got one more thing added over it. Okay. So this way you can manipulate, and also you can create event. Even that part we will see right now. So let us take this one and manipulate an existing div here. So I'm going to take this piece of code here. Again, I'm going to add it inside this, okay. I'm going to edit document. Now I don't have a my button over here. So maybe I can just take, now I'll add an ID to this div. Let's see. I've not created a button. I'm using that same thing to, now what it has to do is, it's going to show me a hello world. So a lot of things are going to happen. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't use a div here. So I didn't use a button here, I used the text here. So let me just add it to, let me create an empty button with no event, okay. I'll just say no event here. At runtime you can create an event, okay. So now how this works is, this will append this to this particular. Now we'll, of course I'll have to change this div. Sorry, I had given it to the div. Let me add it to the button here. Yeah, now this button ID, so event will be added at runtime. So this says add event listener. So let's see what it does. Now I have my event will be added at runtime. So let me click on this. Now it should show an alert here. It didn't show the alert. The problem is Java is super case sensitive. Be very careful. Here I had given small my button, so that it was my B was big. So now when I go over here, I refresh this, show down values. Now see the alert has got added. Eventually, see what happens here is, see the interactivity over here. Eventually there is no event over here. Okay, so at runtime, if you want to add some logic, which is really awesome. Okay, so show down value. Now when I do show down values, what is it doing? It's doing all those other things like showing the value, HTML and all that, but it is also doing this, right? It's saying go to this button and add this event listener click. So now if I click on this, it shows me my hello world. Isn't that cool? So in one HTML, see the amount of interactivity that we have built. Basically you can build a game or a web page. You understood now? Almost using this, you can start working directly on any project. That's my guarantee. Okay, if you look at the code samples here, and if you look at some additional references that I have given you, you can directly start working on this. Okay, so now let's continue with this. Now in addition to this, there is something called as a JavaScript window object. Okay, now this window object is a part of this HTML. From this you can find out what is the current href, okay, what is the host name, what is the path name of this, okay, and what was the previous, you can also browse through the history, what was it and what was the forward of it. Okay, so we can take a look, and you can also build document cookie, like say for example John Doe expert. So you can use document cookies can be created. This is how your password and all get stored, basically encrypted cookies. Okay, and many information regarding when you visit a site. I mean, next time when you get notification, it uses basically this document cookie concept. Okay, it will store a cookie in your browser. So next time when you visit that site, it will search for that site will search for your cookie, and if it exists, it will realize that you are a returning person and this is your information. Sometimes your password can also be stored in this, and you can have a limited amount of time where the cookie is valid. So this is basically stored in your browser. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So, and now I'll add all this to the second button. So I'm going to see the so let's see the window.location.href. Maybe we can see host name. It will be 1270. Okay, and we'll also see, we can use this to move back, forward and all that. So this is how JavaScript can manipulate the cookies and other things. And also one more thing you can do is you can change the current location. Okay, if you do this, you will be navigated out of this place. If you change this, you will be navigated out of this place. Say www. So let me show you this working. So now let's go back here, refresh this, add the interactivity. Now if you see here, after that it has gone to google.com. Okay, we'll have to give it in a particular way. Alright, otherwise that href, that is the current one. So it is printing the other things, right? So let's go back here. Eventually no event. When the event gets added, let us not redirect it first. We'll see the HREF, what it shows and all that. So if you see here, this is the current location over here, okay. Now let me show you something. Now if you go to say google.com and in the developer tools, if I say so if you see, it shows me the site, right? There are a couple of other things that we can see is path name href window.history.back. It's actually a method. So it takes you back one, okay, so you can navigate back and forward on the history. Alright. So with this we have almost seen all the events that can happen here with an HTML. Okay. So let's now look at the, so with this we have almost done with the crash course of HTML. We started off with we created this form, we created this index file, we built a simple, first we built an href, then we built a paragraph, then we built tables, then we unordered list, ordered list, then we moved on to interactivity, buttons, then we created functions, we saw how to use console.log, and then we created a form, okay, and how to access different types of checkbox, labels, input text box, password. And then we looked at how to save the data, like how to access the data from one particular field, and then finally it will be a submit. That will be a server file. Okay, right now we are just showing it as a local, but usually this will be a JSP or it will go to Java Spring Boot, or it could be any endpoint, okay, which is a server side. It could also be a Node.js server. Okay, I have given a complete tutorial on Spring Boot. You can check that out later. Alright, so now we also saw index, we saw interactivity, we saw a lot of interactivity, right? So we saw events, we saw how to get access to elements by tag name, by ID, how to browse the DOM, how to get the values, how to change the values, how to check the inner HTML values, and we also saw like how to add events, how to use mouseover. So basically we have mouseover, mouse change, mouse out, and also like how to add events at runtime, then add images, change images. So we've seen a lot, almost we have built a lot of stuff over here. Alright, so this is good enough for you to start off with HTML. So basically, see guys, most of the time you will be building forms. Okay, if JavaScript is the framework for Angular and React, okay, or Vue.js. All these JavaScript frameworks, especially Angular and React, are so becoming so popular now. The underlying framework is JavaScript. Without this knowledge of this HTML and JavaScript, you will not be able to understand that. Okay, so this is a stepping stone for that. Alright, so please stop the video here, go through, see, write this HTML properly, type it down, see that you are able to see all the changes that has been mentioned over here.